I worked for the ministry in the beekeeping business for 25 years, and I used to go around various villages looking for disease in bees.
How did you learn that, Sid? Did you start out with your own bees?
Yes, I started as an hobby from the late Mr. William Acker, John Acker's father. He started me off beekeeping when I was 18, and I kept bees then until I was 68. There was a virulent disease which beekeepers, a lot of amateurs, wouldn't be able to detect. Well, it's a disease which attacks the bees before they're fully developed. You'd have to look in the bottom of the hive where they breed to detect it. So I was employed going round to various villages in Cambridgeshire and some in Norfolk and Essex. If it was detected, it had a ministry order to destroy it, and so I had the job of destroying these bees. At that time, there wasn't any water on it when we came there. At Old Woodhouse at that time, it was the man next door had an old well which had a winch, and you let a bucket down the well bottom to get a bucket of water, and you winched it up, and that's how you got your fresh water. There were no water in the village at that time, but they all relied on the local wells, either in the farms or public ones. There was two pumps. They was on top of the wells, of course. There was one at John Acker's front of his house, and there was one opposite the church farm cottages. And then about 1920, I remember the Pump Green well being built by Lax of Cottenham, the well-boring people. That well was dug by a man being let down with a windlass, and they'd wind the earth up as he dug it down below, and they'd wind it up and tip it out in a great big heap at the side, which was stood there quite a while, and we used to gather old fossils from it. Us boys used to watch before the man went down the well. He would tie a big old chaff bag on a piece of rope when he was digging and drop that down and pull it up and down sharply. And we'd wonder what it was for, and he said, there's such stale air at the bottom where I'm going to work, that refreshes it.
Like air moving,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah. But up Scotland Farm, they each had their own well, with a range, so the pump was inside the kitchen, and the well was just outside, catching the soft water.
Oh, I see.
And Scotland Farm.
So they had running water?
Well, they had their own water, yes.
Yeah.
We used to go at the top of the drift, and on the side in the ditch there was a drain pipe used to run, and there was all summer that was fed, I think, by a spring. It always used to keep running all the time, and we used to get clear fresh water from that when we lived in Victory Terrace, and put the buckets under to collect the water running off the land. Lovely, well, clear water. Oh yes, they'd do anything them days to get a few extra shillings, and the most part were, a lot of them used to buy some what they call little weaner pigs just away from the mother, and they have two of them and make themselves, as my father did, make themselves a little pig sty and have a bit of a shed at the side for them to shelter in, and then fatten them up until they was about 8 to 10 stone each, and then have them killed. And then they'd save the meat, salt it, and put it in various things. There was no refrigerators then. No. They'd keep it in various things, so they had pork for nearly all year round.
Did they really?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, on the acre of land, as you described, they used to grow all their own vegetables. Oh well. After a day's work.
Yes. Oh yes. They mostly had a nice garden. If they hadn't, they had a rood, which is a quarter of an acre of land. There was 2 allotments at Dry Drayton, one down Oatington Road, and another one right by the Cremant called Friesland. They go on the allotments 2 hours from 6 or 6 to 8, and then they pop up the pub for the last hour, spend it with the pals in the pub. pint of beer then was 3p. But the wages, don't forget, was only £1.50.
£1.50. And they could make a bit more during harvest time.
Oh yes, the harvest time, it was a usual stunt to have what they called a harvest month. That meant that you got double pay for harvest month, but you had to work from early morning till late at night. They had to earn enough money then with that double pay for a month to buy clothes and that set up for the winter.
Were the winters harder then, Sid?
Oh yes, they were. They was a lot harder. I can tell you a little story in there which may make you laugh, but I worked down at Bar Hill Farm when Mr. Frog was there, and we used to have for drink, we had cold tea in a tin can with a docky bag, as we called it. And going down Bar Hill, once I noticed my back felt funny. That was freezing weather, and when I felt my back, there was a lump of ice on the back because my drinking can had leaked on my back.
Got into frozen.
And I'd got a lump of ice on my back, and I couldn't make it what it was. Yes.
So winters were colder?
Yes. Oh, terrible. Yes.
Were summers better then, Sid?
Yes, yes, they were. I remember 1923, that was the hottest summer I ever knew, and all the ponds dried up, and so therefore they was able to clean them out, which they hadn't done for years, and old Mr. Parcel was the local contractor. I remember him cleaning the pond out opposite the shop up the village, and where the rails are still there, I think. There was a horse pond there, and he had some special little carts which belonged to Mr. Hooley, little three-wheel carts, which they used to push in the pond when there was only mud there, and they'd load them up and pull them out with horses and dump them in the fields. And I was only a boy of 13, and they'd put these big lumps of clay out the pond, and the hot, dry weather, and I, a boy of 13, had to go and what they call spread the heaps. And they used to say it was like rock nearly. Terrible job, but that's one of my first hard grass jobs I ever did. But them days, you see, village life, they were very poor.
What do you think is the big difference, if there is a difference, between the Dry Drayton of today and the Dry Drayton that you knew as a young man?
Oh, completely different. In my young days, if you lived in a village, most of the family men got work on the local farms, and most of them lived in tied cottages, went with the job. My mother drummed into us, whatever you do together, never rent a house if you can help it, try to buy your own. And we all achieved that ambition.
Yes, you did. Well, Sid, it's been lovely chatting to you.
Yeah.
You've got some lovely memories. Thank you very much.
Okay.